Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later, as right now it's time to go on a rampage. Yes, today we're taking a look at this lovely specimen, which is Cang-Toys Ferocious, and plenty of people have reviewed this already, but I've been finally tempted into giving it a go myself. Cannot wait, because apparently it's somewhat amazing. I mean, I was kind of holding off, thinking, do I really need another set of Predacons and all of that? But then, turns out they're kind of massive as well, and never let it be said that I'm someone that would turn down a chance to take a look at an absolutely incredibly awesome, massive set of Predacons. That's just the way I roll. Now, last thing before we begin, I should just mention that this review comes courtesy of tfsource.com, so I'll go ahead and put a link to their site in the video description below, and you can check this guy out, and indeed his beastie buddies as well. Now, the box here is really, really nice. It's got this very sheeny quality to it on the front, and kind of catches the light nicely. Does look a little bit dark if you're not shining light directly on it though, but still, lovely artwork there, really like that. And if we turn our attention to the back, then it's kind of a similar story, just with the beast mode. And of course, these guys are quite stylized, as you can see from the images just there. They're certainly not your kind of classic G1 cartoon Predacons or anything like that. They're kind of almost got a bit of a zoidy look to them, certainly to my eye anyway. But yeah, really cannot wait to see what all the fuss is about. So first things first, we want to get the box open just here, like so. There's no tape on that or anything, which is kind of strange, but there you go. Just got the instructions in here in a little baggie with the character card as well, and then it's got this sort of foam interior, and I'm sure if we take that out, we'll see that inside is the toy itself. There we go. Well, first up in the box in terms of accessories, you've got this sword, which is got a kind of cast in orange plastic, and then got a bit of a silver tampo along the side. That looks all right. You've got a fairly sizable blaster, which looks really, really cool as well. Again, got little tampos and things just here on the side, and a bit of orange paint going on there too. That looks nice. You've then got this very sizable combined mode hand, which looks very, very imposing indeed. Big fan of how that looks. Really like the spiky fingers going on here. I think that's really, really cool. Really nice kind of bit of chrome on the top, bit of paint. It's certainly more detailed than your average third-party combiner hand. So, and as I say, it does look massive as well, so that kind of says something about what we're going to end up with for combined mode eventually. And then, of course, we've got the toy itself, and it certainly makes a first impression right out of the box. Let's just say that. I mean, again, it's probably worth reiterating that this is a very stylized take on the character, of course, but it looks exceptionally impressive. I mean, it's large, it's angular, it's good looking, it's he makes it a very meaty first impression. No doubt at least part of that is the finish going on here, which is kind of got this kind of like metallic sheen to it. Very nice red, really nice orange as well, few paint applications going on. Some of the colour matching, maybe not the best, like if it's intended to be colour matched, as in you've got orange on the arms just here and in areas such as the biceps, where it's clearly bare plastic, and that does differ quite noticeably to the orange on areas such as the tiger head and knees just here where it's painted. But what is nice is that there's not just kind of one flat colour of red either. There's some sort of like burnt orange going on here, different shades. All in all, it looks really, really good, and I do kind of like the metallic thing that they've got going on there as well. And for the most part, it's an exceptionally tidy looking robot form as well. Precious little kibble going on. Of course, you've got stuff like the cat head in exactly the place that the cat head should be, so that's good. Proportions look pretty good to my eye as well. It certainly looks very humanoid. Again, not quite as kind of chunky and whatever as the original design of this character of old Rampage, but still, I think it really works for him. And if you just kind of turn it to a side view, you'll see that there's not much in the way of kibble at all as well. I mean, he does have the old little tail just hanging out there, but on his back, which I haven't quite sort of figured out what to do with that just yet. Because it seems to just want to kind of sit there, which is a bit of an oddity. But still, it doesn't look too bad. It works just fine. And then on his back, actually, again, it's a similar story. Very, very clean for the most part. No real kind of backpack or anything going on there. Nice. It's got the kind of the cat feet hanging off the back of his feet here, but that actually looks all right, and that kind of adds to a bit of stability. Particularly on this grass, which is not the easiest thing to get people to pose on, little bots to pose on, but still. And he's got these little cat feet hanging off the back here as well. But overall, I think it cleans up pretty well. I like the design quite a bit. Now, like the rest of him, the character's head is again very stylized. I'm going to try and not say that word too often in the description of how this thing looks, but it is. So what do you want me to say? But yeah, I actually really like it. I think this is a really nice design on the whole. And I think even though it is stylized, it's still kind of suitably rampagey, like it still fits the character quite well. I mean, it's got some light piping going on at the back there, kind of solid translucent piece, which feeds through to these eyes. Although I will say that it's kind of negated by the fact that the eyes are the same color as, or similar anyway, to the mouth plate and the nose. So it's sort of hindered the effect a little bit, but still, it's there. It's got this kind of nice stripe on the top there, kind of echoes of tiger going on, and some black paint on the little vents on the side there. That's cool. And yeah, overall, I think, yeah, it is stylized, but still, I think it's a good job. I think if you're going to do that kind of take, that new take on classic characters, this is how you do it. Now, that's to say nothing of the tiger head going on his chest, of course, and that looks mean as anything. Love those sharp teeth, those kind of saber-tooth teeth just going on here. That's really very sharp, actually. You want to be a little bit careful with that. But yeah, I think the whole thing looks grand. You can see some of those silver accents and highlights that I was talking about just there, including some little text, actually. I think it might be kind of Cybertronian in nature, or at least that's the idea, I guess. And it looks cool. It kind of reminds me of what Fans Hobby do a little bit, actually, particularly on some of their earlier figures. They've kind of let it go by the wayside a bit now with some of their more recent releases. But yeah, these kind of tampos and everything there and that writing, it feels very early Fans Hobby. I mean, there's more. If we come around to the back of him, you've got a little 01 stamp just here, and some nice little kind of chrome accents, and even a little bit of die-cast metal, I think, going on just there. So a little bit anyway. And yeah, it all adds up to making him look really, really nice in hand. I think as a combined mode, if all 5 of these toys look as nice as this, it'll be something for sure. Again, decent proportions on areas such as the legs, and again, very stylized. Some die-cast metal kind of pistons going on here, so that's a really nice little touch. Kind of early Masterpiece callback, maybe, with things like MP1. That's kind of what that reminded me of. And yeah, I think it works really well. His arms are looking really beefy too, and I've already kind of mentioned these cat paws hanging off the back here, the little tiger paws. But again, I really don't mind it, and I actually think the overall shape of the arms with this kind of vent at the back here is really, really cool overall. So this tail is a little bit of an oddity, only because, I mean, it kind of pegs into the butt plate, for want of a better word, but there really is nowhere for it to go, so you just kind of fold it up like so. That seems to be the best way to kind of get rid of it. I guess you can kind of fold it up a little bit more and try and stow it away, but yeah, no, it's a thing. It's just kind of, old tail on the robot mode. Now there's some nice die-cast metal in areas such as this, just on the chest as well, but then rather randomly some very visible joints and things like that, so it's a strange one. There are a couple of elements of the design that I'm maybe less sure about, but on the whole I think it comes together very nicely indeed. Joints feel super solid too, and there's quite a lot of articulation going on. I mean, starting at the head, it's on a ball joint, so it can go all the way around. I will say actually that the head is the one element that I think could maybe be a little bit tighter. It's not loose at all or flopping around, but it just kind of, I don't know, it just feels like maybe it could just be a tiny bit more solid than maybe it is. Then at the shoulders, they will, wow, you've got quite a bit of squeak going on there, you can hear that. Definitely, that's a bit of squeak, right? Like, tells you something. But yeah, very, very tight at the shoulders indeed. Now they will actually hinge out a little bit further like so, which I guess is for transformation, but you kind of keep them squeaked to the side like that. And then there is very clicky ratchets which will go all the way around at the shoulder as well. And then you do have a bit of a bicep swivel going on just here. You've then got double jointed elbows, so they will bend all the way up like that, so that's really, really good. So big range at the elbows, that's cool. There is wrist swivel going on there, and then you've got multiple points of articulation in these hands. Actually, each finger is on a ball joint attached at the knuckle, and then there is a hinge in the middle of each finger as well. They're all independent from one another, and then there are actually several points of articulation at the thumb also, and again with a little hinge in the middle of the thumb. So really quite articulated hands, and I really like the design of the hands actually. Sometimes with super articulated hands, that they even fan out a little bit like that. With super articulated hands, I'm not so keen. I feel like they can be kind of really a bit overdone and a bit fiddly, but these do not feel like that. I really like these hands a lot. Now, as far as the hips go, he does have some massive hip skirts just here, but they will kind of come out the way a little bit. They're on ball joints, so it's not get the old arm out the way. Squeak. But yeah, it's really not too much of a worry with the hip skirts. It's fine. And there are hip flaps as well. They just kind of fold up. I actually do really like the design of the hip flaps, even though, you know, as a solution, it's not my favourite thing ever. These are okay. These are okay. Now there is actually a waist swivel up top, just there. Very, very nice, and not really an ab crunch to speak of. It will kind of rock back and forth a little bit, but I wouldn't call it an ab crunch, you know. And then there is, again, a bit of a squeak going on at the hips. Not quite as much as the shoulders, but still some. Oof. And then that will fan out a little bit as well. It's kind of a little ratchet just there. Very strange joints on this thing, all told. And again at the knee, very clicky ratchets. And I think there is actually, yeah, there's 2 hinges in the knee there. So, but it doesn't go much past 90. And even if it could, you know, it's impeded slightly by the kind of bit here on the back, the kibble. But still, that's absolutely fine. It works well enough. And then at the foot, you do have a bit of squeaky ankle tilt. You could make an orchestra out of these things, honestly. Just, if all 5 of them are like this, I'm going to get 4 mates around and just see what I can come up with musically. But yeah, a bit of ankle tilt going on there, and I think actually a bit of twist at the ankle as well, or not? No, I don't think there is. Just the tilt, but it will go back and forth a little bit, so that's fine. So yeah, all told, he poses very nicely, very solid, very stable. I mean, you've heard those joints, so but yeah, no, he doesn't feel like he's going to fall over at all, and you know, the feet and all of that kind of add to the stability, so that's really, really good. He's not the most forgiving, you know, joints wise. Like they're obviously with the old creak, the squeak, there is yeah, a little bit of friction going on actually, but it's fine. Nothing feels like it's going to break or anything like that. And you know, in terms of general articulation, I think he's not the most lithe either. Like, he could be a little bit more fluid, but still, you know, I would say it's everything you would expect in terms of kind of modern Masterpiece stroke third-party articulation. You know, it does everything it needs to. Oh, don't mind me, I'm just having fun with my latest third-party toy. And next we want to get that gun in his hand, of course. Now there's a little tab inside the hand which corresponds to this little point here. It really, really reminds me of a particular third party, but I can't put my finger on who. So I'm gonna consider that whilst we're talking. I'm gonna consider it, but it definitely reminds me of a previous toy. That's what I will say. But yeah, it fits really securely. Doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, so that's all good. And then the sword obviously fits in the other hand, and yeah, again, quite secure. And yeah, there's no denying that he looks pretty swish with both his weapons in hand. I do really, really like the gun in particular. I think it's suitably meaty and makes him look, I don't know, kind of like a real military man, you know, kind of really souped up and ready for battle. The sword is cool as well, bit of an unusual design, kind of got this like teeth thing going on the back, which could be a little bit dangerous. I don't know if it kind of falls towards you maybe, but still, overall, I think both weapons look very cool indeed. And yeah, all told, he does look pretty mighty in this mode. Really liking how it looks. And oh, by the way, I have worked out who the gun reminds me of as well, which third-party company. It's actually TT Hongley, their Red Falcon. You know, the way that the gun grips into the palm, the little kind of mechanism. Although peg in palm is obviously nothing new, it's on plenty of third-party and other Masterpiece style toys, it does specifically remind me very, very much of the way that toy functions, just the kind of design of it and everything. But yeah, coming back to this guy, he does look... he looks awesome, what can I say? Yes, I think if you're looking for cartoon-accurate takes on the Predacons, you've still got a bit of a way to go. This is not that by any means. And you know, I'm still holding out for that day. I still look forward to the idea of truly Masterpiece-style cartoon-accurate Predacons. But for now, at least, you know, he's a lot of fun. He shapes up really nicely. He's you know, imposing. He's just kind of very nicely stylized. He looks great. Now, speaking as we were before about slightly more accurate, G1 accurate takes on the character, here is Ferocious with the Power of the Primes Rampage, who you can see is obviously a lot smaller, first thing, and yeah, that toy is a lot more accurate to the Generation 1 source. A lot less stylized, there we go again, but you know, it's interesting to see just how different 2 takes on the same character can truly be. Of course, the colours vary quite a bit as well. That's much more of a kind of vibrant red, much more kind of cartoony in its way, and it does make Ferocious look like a bit of a mean machine by comparison. I'm sure a lot of people would like to see that kind of classic Rampage done in the size of Ferocious anyway, maybe without some of the kind of, you know, the departure in the looks and things like that. But for now, these are some of your options anyway, and yeah, it's fun to see. As for another comparison, here he is with X-Transbots Andras for Scourge, and Cang-Toys Sovereign for Galvatron. And we've just done a review of Andras on the channel recently, this version of Andras, so do check that out if you've got the time. But yeah, you can see that he's actually about head height Ferocious with these two. So he's not small by any means. You know, certainly larger than your average third-party combiner limb, let's put it that way. And I think he looks pretty mean, actually. You know, colour-wise, kind of adds a little something to the old Decepticon palette. And yeah, I think he fills out the ranks very nicely. It is, as I say, not a cartoon-accurate take, but I think it's one that may work for a lot of people all the same. Then we'll bring in a couple more Cang-Toys products. Here we've got Hydra, their Six-Shot, and Thomas, their Astro Train. Almost forgot his name there. Can you believe that? How could I forget a name like that? Anyway, you can see here how he shapes up. Actually taller than Thomas, which is really quite interesting to see. As I say, very sizable bot that he is. But yeah, it's a bit of fun to have a look at these guys all together. A couple of official Masterpiece lads here. You've got Soundwave and Shockwave, and again you can see that Ferocious is very, very tall, standing well above Shockwave's height certainly. And yeah, very imposing indeed. Where he's not quite as tall is versus some of these chunky boys that we've got going on here. So we've got X-Transbots Motormaster, their Gravestone, and Oculomax Incursus, standing in for Onslaught. And yeah, of course they are the team leaders, not just limbs. So, you know, they tend to be a little bit larger, but you can see that actually he's not too far off Gravestone. Maybe just, you know, kind of half a head height or whatever difference. But yeah, obviously Incursus, big old massive thing that he is, definitely stands taller. With a couple of other limb guys though, you can see he's definitely much taller. I mean, here we've got him with another X-Transbot Stunticon. This is their Wild Rider, otherwise known as Flip Out. And you've got him with Oculomax Probus, standing in for Brawl. Who I absolutely love, by the way. Love this toy, in case I've never mentioned it before. But yeah, you can see he's pretty sizable, isn't he? Now, of course, I've already made reference to TT Hongley Red Falcon, their Starscream, kind of old T-Beast Starscream that he is. A review of this guy on the channel as well. And it's weird, they just fit in stylistically super well. I mean, actually the hands are a little bit different, more than I thought when I was kind of looking at them up close, but that mechanism for the sword definitely does remind me of old Red Falcon a little bit anyway. And yeah, just, I don't know, something about the style of them, the kind of really distinctive aesthetic, it kind of fits. If anything, you could, I don't know, if they do more T-Beast toys, old TT Hongley, then I don't know, Ferocious here could be a good shout for that lineup somehow. In any case, he's a really handsome beast on the whole, really like that robot mode, so can't wait to get through transformation and see what the animal mode is all about. Right, well, that's transformation done, and it's fair to say that it's not too complicated in principle, but I think my fingers found it a little bit more arduous than anything. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's really nothing too difficult there in principle, at least. It all kind of unfolds in a relatively straightforward manner, but there are definitely a couple of parts where it is a bit tough on the old digits. You know, I actually did manage to cut my finger along the way. I think I got it trapped, inside one of the legs or whatever it was. I forget now, but yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's just, watch out maybe to kind of pinch yourself. There are definitely a couple of moments which I found a little bit frustrating as well. Now, a lot of that kind of comes down to this rear half, which the way that these legs at the back kind of unfold and kind of come into position. I don't know, it is a little bit of a strange one. Getting this whole kind of back half of the cat mode together as well. It's not challenging again in principle. It's just more kind of actually getting the clearance and everything required. Particularly the way that these the robot mode legs kind of fold up into the cat mode. That's just requires a little bit of precision, I would say, is probably the right word. But, overall, it's really fine. As for the result, well, judge for yourself. But for my money, I kind of feel like it works. It really, really works. I don't know, there's something about it that just feels very animalistic. It's probably one of the kind of mechanical big cat modes that I think works the best that I've seen in recent memory anyway. There's just a kind of, I don't know, a quality to it, like some of the kind of, although it's robotic, some of the kind of musculature and some of the elements of the way it's designed just feels very realistic, and I like it a lot. I mean, it helps that it's a really good looking thing as well, right? Like, it's gorgeous, honestly, to look at. I liked the robot mode a lot, but I really, really love this tiger mode. Like, I just think that looks superb. The whole thing is just gorgeous. It's very, very tidy, very clean design, and just aesthetically super pleasing. I mean, even from a back view, that looks pretty good to my eye, honestly. And it's, precious little robot mode kibble going on here. There is a little bit like the little robot mode feet there, and maybe a bit of untidiness here, but it's really not so bad. If anything, it really reminds me of the Feral Rex set, which is, hugely popular, and I loved as well, by the way. I love that set. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, but better, to be honest. Like, way more slick, way more kind of souped up, and it's like they took all the learnings from that and just improved on it. And this is probably going to sound a little bit strange, but I actually didn't go in on this set thinking, oh wow, I bet the beast modes are going to be like a real highlight. And that probably sounds a bit counterintuitive for a set of Predacons, right? But obviously you tend to think of what the combined mode will be like and the individual robot modes, and yeah, you want decent beast modes. But already I'm looking at this thing and thinking, if all 5 of them are as good as this, that's going to be a real showstopper. Anyway, let's get into the detail on this guy. Now, that beast mode head is super powerful, very large, really nice and sizable, looks fantastic. Really love the design of it. Love this kind of slight furrowed brow that he's got on there. The mouth will open quite considerably as well, so that's really cool. Do be careful on these teeth here. When you kind of move this head, there's a tendency to kind of grab it in a way that actually the teeth are going to skewer you a little bit, and they are sharp. They're very, very sharp. They're metal as well, so not one to let your kids play with, let's put it that way. But yeah, the beast mode head looks great. And there is quite a nice bit of articulation there as well. Can kind of bend up and side to side a little bit. Got a little bit of the old squeak going on. It's not super articulated, but it can tilt a little bit as well, so it looks great, man. I really love it. This whole back section here looks fantastic, and again, you've got a little bit of silver paint going on here, matching up with some metal. You've got these pistons at the back as well. All of that stuff looks amazing. I'm really pleased with the design of the back, just how cohesive it looks, how well it comes together. I really didn't expect it as well. When you're transforming it, some of these panels, it doesn't appear like it's going to come together as nicely as it does, and then it does. Love these front legs, just the kind of curvature of them. That works really well for me. Again, the most convincing set of big cat legs I've seen on a Transformer in some time. Just the way that they kind of move and everything, it just looks great. Back legs are pretty good too. I mean, often on these kind of modes, they can be a bit of an afterthought, and I really don't think that's the case here. They're not quite as solid as the front, and there is a bit of kind of like moving panels and things like that, but still, they work very nicely. Now, articulation-wise in the front, You've got, again, those very, very clicky ratchets that you can see just there. You've got obviously what I guess is bicep swivel, and then you've got a nice sort of double hinge here, just at that joint. And then the feet will move quite a bit. You've got articulation in the toes, all as one piece, and then the feet also. So, actually at that front leg, for beast modes, that's quite a lot of articulation. Similar story in the back, you get, really nice rotation going on there. There is a joint just there at the kind of knee for him, and there is actually another joint like that, which, kind of moves in different ways. So, all told, quite a lot going on there, and then you get articulation similarly at the foot as well. You also have the ability to hinge out the leg joints quite a bit as well, which I really, really appreciate. Again, it's something that you don't see on a lot of big cat modes, but it makes such a difference to posing. This thing actually feels like it can pose in its beast mode, which I know sounds obvious, but you don't get all the time. I'm always surprised by some big cat modes when they're kind of, they feel like a bit static. This is not that. The one thing I will say is that there's not much articulation in the body itself. It just kind of, there is a tiny bit of hinge, but it's not really designed to be articulation as such. I think it's just, because of the nature of the transformation. So, maybe there could have been a bit of arching or something going on here, but it's fine. And then you've got this very posable tail, which can move pretty much whichever way you want it to. Multiple joints going on there, so that's really cool. And even with a tiny little gun molded in the end, so that's a laugh, isn't it? Should you also prefer, though, then you can actually mount the robot mode gun on top, like so, just in a little peg hole there. And honestly, I don't think that works particularly well. It's a bit of a shame because the little port here, the handle, is just too long. Frankly, it just kind of sticks out and looks a little bit silly. Like not very purposeful. I actually had to double check to make sure that that was indeed how it's supposed to be, and it is. But I kind of wish, maybe you could fold away this little handle and there would be a smaller option or something like that, just to make it sit a bit further down and look a bit more, kind of purposeful. Because as it is, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. We're not done with the weapons yet, though, as actually a little bit of functionality for this hand as well, for the Predacon hand, the combined mode hand, because it turns into a little crab, bizarrely. Let's check that out. Right, well, first you just want to kind of unfold that bit and move it over to the side. Then this whole thumb section just folds around like so, and then you want to kind of manipulate this metal piece down into that, like to make a little claw. Then you just want to untab this back piece, fold it round onto the top, and then you got to kind of twist it. You're going to get a bit of the old squeak yet again, like that, and just clip that in and then fold that piece forwards, and then purely and simply fold that round to make the kind of claw arm, and then fan out the fingers. Maybe this is why those fingers can fan out like they can, I don't know, or maybe they just did it for articulation, but either way it works. And voila, there we go. Now, of course, it's just half the crab at this stage. In case you were wondering, we will need the other hand for the combined mode, which I'm guessing is coming with their dive bomb. I'm not 100% sure, I'd need to check, but that obviously does the exact same thing in the other way, combines onto there, and then you have yourself a full crab. So that's kind of fun, isn't it? I do like those little kind of clever reinvented touches that they come up with for these kind of sets, and I feel like this one, the half of it anyway, works really, really well. Oh, and I missed an opportunity there. I was going to say it was absolutely clawful or some other terrible pun like that, but hey ho, fortunately I spared you from it. Anyway, turning our attention towards a few comparisons for today. Here he is, old Ferocious with the Power of the Primes Rampage again in their beast modes, and this is an interesting one, isn't it? Because again, with that Power of the Prime set, I really like it, by the way, and I know it's got its detractors, I know it's got tons of people that don't like it. I love it. I think the combined mode slaps, purely and simply. I think the individual robot modes are pretty good, but the beast modes are a bit weak in places, and I think that's there's an element of that you're seeing here, I'm sure, by way of comparison. That said, the Power of the Primes version is more cartoon accurate, so if that's your jam, if that's what you like, then maybe you're willing to make a few allowances, but there's little doubt to me that the more impressive beast mode here is Ferocious, for sure. And to give you an idea of how big this thing is as well, here he is with Masterpiece Tigertron, who is also, I think, a fantastic tiger mode. Really, really love this toy a lot. Review on the channel, by the way, plug. But even then, you can see that Ferocious is huge compared to him. Just again, feels super muscly, really kind of very animalistic. I don't know, man, it's just cool. Just look at it. And I know it's maybe a bit of a random comparison, but again, just to show you the real size of this thing, here he is with MP28 Hot Rod, who's fairly indicative of kind of carbot size, Masterpiece carbot size in this mode, obviously. And yeah, no, again, massive. In fact, he's so big, he almost makes Ocular Max Laserbeak look kind of in scale. I don't know. It works for me anyway. I think one thing's for certain, if you're on board with the aesthetics of this toy and you like the style that it's going for, you're not really going to be disappointed with this thing. Just because it's so nice. It feels great to handle. It looks fantastic. And just look at how imposing it looks versus Masterpiece scale figures as well, right? So yeah, tons of nice things to say about the Tiger mode, really. I mean, as I said earlier, the robot mode for me was good. The Tiger mode is exceptional. Really, really pleased with it. But of course, we've got a third mode to go, which is his arm mode. So let's check that out. That was a bit of a process, I gotta tell you. Quite a lot of fun actually in its way, but certainly a very intricate transformation, let's say. Much more than I was anticipating, and probably a lot more than your average third-party Masterpiece style combiner limb. But really not too bad. I mean, it is complicated, but actually the upshot is that everything tabs in really, really beautifully. So when you do come to the end, or most things do anyway, about 98% of it does, but I'll point that out in a minute. But yeah, when you come to the end, it's satisfying still, even though it has been a bit of a process. Now, just a couple of bits that didn't quite work as well for me are the little tail just here. This is the beast mode tail, which does kind of tab in nicely once you get the hand on, but until that point, it just has a habit of popping out repeatedly. So that was kind of frustrating. It's like, because you've got to collapse these robot mode legs together, similar, and they actually sit really, really flush, but then you're supposed to kind of tab the tail in sort of in the middle of that, but there's almost not room for it, so that's a little bit of an oddity. I mean, it comes together nicely enough with the hand, but yeah. The other bit that's slightly strange is this piece here, which of course is ends up on the back of the robot mode, and then in arm mode, just here, this is actually the top. And it just kind of sits there. It doesn't really have anywhere to kind of tab. I mean, you can position it just fine, and it looks fine. I mean, it doesn't look like a problem, but I kind of expected it to tab in downwards or something like that, and it really doesn't. You know, the instructions kind of fudge over that a little bit as well, and just kind of leave you guessing, and having checked it out, nope, it just sits there. Actually, the instructions is something I will make a comment on, and you know, if you've seen previous videos of mine, you may know that I have a bit of a thing about poor instructions sometimes. These are kind of irritating because they show the position that you're moving off from, but not where you're going to. That is, they don't show what any particular panel looks like once it's actually been transformed. It shows where you're starting from, and then it shows an arrow. Very often it'll say rotate when it doesn't mean rotate, it just means move. And then it doesn't show you what the finished article looks like. So you're kind of left guessing as to where it's supposed to go, like a lot of the time. But we got there. Besides, as I mentioned, everything does tab in really nicely, so that's a big bonus too. And the result is great. Like that arm, I know it's an arm, so it's like, it's an arm, but it's still a very pretty arm, and it's big as well. I mean, really beefy. This has me truly, truly intrigued for the combined mode. I mean, that hand is immense. Great articulation in the fingers and all of that there. These spikes look phenomenal. I'm truly, yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm not always a huge fan of combined mode hands. You know, sometimes they can be a little bit cumbersome, but this is all right, actually. I do wish that maybe it had a bit more articulation in the wrist, because although it does rotate, it's got the old squeak going on. I'm going to be a bit careful with that wrist, actually, I will say. I do wish that actually the palm could maybe sit flat or something like that. That would be quite nice, but you can't do that. This joint in the middle seems very strong, though. Very strong indeed, so that bodes well, and it's got a bit of rotation going on through there as well. And of course we get our first look at what the combiner ports are going to be like for this set. That actually getting that out of the back there is hugely difficult, because this is exceptionally stiff. So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes when we get the combined mode together, but signs are good. And then by way of a little comparison for you, here he is with... I never thought we'd take a shot like this, but here he is with the respective right arms from Zeta Superion and Toy World Constructor. And you can see he's about the same size. And of course, you know, I believe that this set started life as a kind of Toy World project, and it's kind of, you know, spun out from there, much as, you know, the Zeta stuff did. So perhaps it's no great surprise that they're all kind of looking about the same size. It does mean that the combined mode is going to be quite the thing. That's for another day though, and for today, what I will say is that there really is quite a lot of good things to say about this guy. I mean, you know, I wasn't sure about the stylistic nature of it going in, but he's really won me over in hand. I think the robot mode is superb. But actually the Tiger mode is the one that really steals it for me. I just think it's immense. And the combined mode's shaping up very nicely as well, as I already mentioned. The transformation in between is really not bad. There are a couple of bits like the little joints just here that I'm going to be super careful with, because, you know, there's a lot of squeaking involved and it does make me nervous, I'm not going to lie. But for now, he seems to be very solid. So signs are good. Signs are good. Needless to say, for me today, it's a toot. Good job, man. Good job. Now, as I already mentioned, this guy, along with the rest of the set, is available from tfsource.com now, so I'll go ahead and put a link to their site in the video description below in case they take your fancy. But how are you feeling about this guy today? Do you like what you see? Do you not? Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to drop me a like as well. A big final shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Details of that are coming up at the end of the video, so if you do want to support me, you know, maybe getting videos a little bit early, plus some other good stuff, and you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, that's it from me, so enjoy the rest of your day, and TTFN.